How's it going, everybody? This is Alex Caceres, and you're listening to Story of the Fight.
Hey, what up, Toasty?
What's up, man? Good to see you.
Nice to see you too, brother. Hey, thanks for filling in. So everybody knows, my name is Romero. That's our boy Toasty. And this is Story of the Fight, where we talk all things mixed martial arts. Usually, it's my boy Will, the co-host, right? That he's not available right now. He's out of town.
Yeah, you shrunk Will down and just
made him better looking and tougher.
Yeah, I don't know about him. He's married.
Hey, no, but thanks for joining us, Toasty. Really appreciate it. And man, a couple things. First, the background. Always love the background. Got to have both of your belts there. Right, repping. Each one gets its own chair. And then the Portugal flag, dude.
Always repping, bro.
Still in the World Cup.
Yeah, they will be until the end.
Yes. So your boy here cheering Mexico on, and then after they don't even make it out of the knockout round, I start crying and I pull my jersey off, and underneath my Mexico jersey, there's a USA jersey. And
that went off too?
Yeah. Now I'm just repping the Cowboys jersey today, dude. As soon as this is over, we'll stick with that.
At least they're doing well.
Yeah, true. But
I
hey,
can't
man,
wear my black and gold.
Oh, you're a Steelers fan?
Yeah, it's not good this year.
That's rough, man. They've gone through a good streak though, man. Mike Tomlin. I mean, I think this might be his first losing season as a head coach. So
why you gotta use the jinx like that?
Hey, dude, that's the way they're trending. That's the way they're trending. But hey, the reason that we are here today is to talk MMA. And last night, UFC Fight Night, Wonderboy Thompson versus Kevin Holland, man. Are you ready to start talking about some of these fights?
Absolutely.
All right, man. Hey, so let's go ahead and just get started right now with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Kevin Holland. Holy smokes. Hey, you know how, like, every once in a while you'll get a couple strikers, and they're like, hey, let's just have a gentleman's agreement that nobody is going to go ahead and shoot. Nobody's going to go for a takedown. And then, like, in the first round, like, somebody goes for a takedown. Like, in this fight, they make this gentleman's agreement, like, hey, we're not going to wrestle. And they stay true to the word up until about the fourth round.
I mean, when you have a broken hand at almost halfway through the first and you make it all the way to the fourth without taking a shot, that's pretty admirable.
That's super impressive, man. And yeah, so you mentioned the broken hand, right? We have Kevin Holland and Wonderboy Thompson in the first round. They're going at it. I thought Kevin Holland did such a good job closing the distance, because Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in that karate stance is so good at getting in and out because he's so light on his feet. And so he has this little hop step where he gets in with a high knee to try to block Stephen Thompson from blitzing in, and then he tries to land a couple things, himself. He already has long reach as it is, man, but with that hop step, he was able to close the distance really quick that first round.
Yeah, he's super lengthy. There was a couple really lengthy guys on this card, and you noticed every single one of those fights where they're using that reach very well, and Kevin Holland was doing it up until like the midway of the second.
Yep, absolutely, man. And, there was a couple times where he came in with that little high knee that I was talking about, like that little hop step, and Thompson would time it with the straight right down the pipe. But Kevin Holland, man, is so tough. And we've known this about Kevin Holland, and I think he really showcased this last night. By the way, his hair, fantastic. I'm always like, what happened? It looks like they didn't finish it. I was like, well, it's like he went to the barbershop. And they're like, do you want braids, or do you just want us to go with the fro? And he said, yes.
Yes.
Just yes to both. And it was a perfect straight down the middle. And from one angle, it looks like he's wearing a Spartan helmet. Did you notice that? It was sick.
A little bit.
I was down with it.
I do think that the braids on the right side of his head were what gave Thompson that cut at the beginning too. So they came together quite a lot. And
the head clash?
I think it was the third, when they clashed heads. But at the beginning of the first, when they came up against Cage at the very beginning, the braids were like right on that spot where Thompson got that cut. And I think that's probably what did it.
Strategic, maybe. He's like, hey, give me a weapon on my right side. I'll come in with the right side of my head. No, but man.
And then wipe it off to the left.
Yeah, exactly. That first round, though, man, was so crazy. And, you know, Holland on one of those catches Stephen Thompson, or Wonderboy Thompson with that right, and sits him on his ass. And at that point, were you thinking like, hey, Holland's probably going to be able to finish this pretty quickly, or a perfect timing, Rich?
No, I didn't think it was going to be quick. Thompson is never somebody who like just goes out. He'll fight it out no matter where he is, whether it's on the ground or it's up. He's quick to get up. I mean, all karate guys are like springs. They just pop right up.
Yeah.
And then also what doesn't help out Thompson in terms of like the judges viewing it is he goes back and forward a lot and he's off the mat. So like every time he gets caught, he's already going back. And while he is getting caught and he's probably dropping, he's also like falling a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So it's almost like in a way, like rolling with a punch, you're saying, but with larger movement. By the way, do you see the guy in the background with the cowboy hat in Orlando? All right, dude. I'm digging it. No, yeah. So that's a really good point. I didn't really think about that because he's already landing on his feet. He's already moving back. So as he gets caught, maybe gets caught off balance a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was the third or the fourth where the commentary booth were like going crazy, like, oh my God, he dropped him. And I'm like, he fell. And then they showed the clip again and they were like, oh yeah, he fell.
Yeah. And you know, Wonder Boy only, if I remember correctly, he's only been knocked out once in his career. That was against Anthony Pettis, where he had that Superman punch where he bounced off the cage. And that was insane. But that's the only time that I've really seen Wonder Boy Thompson like seriously hurt. Because here, yes, he got knocked on his ass, and you could see it, man. When he got clocked, he did that little thing with his eyes where he like looked off to the side. Yeah, it was like, what is going on? But like you said, man, bounces off the cage, bounces off his ass, gets right back up, and dude, the recovery for this, what is he, 39, 40, something like that?
Yeah, he's about to turn 40.
Yeah, man, the recovery is super impressive, and he is fast. He's elusive. You even have Kevin Holland when he went into the second round, and you could hear him. You know, he's like, man, this guy's fast.
This old man's fast.
Yeah, but dude, it was super exciting fight, man. And you know, as the fight continued to go on, one of the things that they were talking about is the fact that Kevin Holland was blocking those head kicks with his right hand, right? And I think it was DC that was like, man, if you're able to block it with your lead hand and it hits the palm, it's a lot better than hitting the back of your hand, hitting your knuckles. And Kevin Holland said, hey, you know, my hand was pretty hurt after the first round. You definitely saw it in the second round, though, where like he's in a stance and he wasn't making a fist anymore. It was just open and he'd like shake it every once in a while. Right. And I was like, oh, man, here we go. And
every disengagement.
That was his biggest weapon, the right hand.
Yeah. That and the forward pressure, like him and then the fight against Levy and Valdez. Whenever you're going forward and back and you're using a lot of kicks, the best way to stop that is just get inside and don't let them get their leg up. So the first round, Kevin Holland was doing that a lot and he was getting a lot off. But when you don't have a right hand to go in with, it's hard to commit just going in with your left.
Yeah, but man, what a fun fight. And there was a few times, right, where they scramble a little bit and they end up on the ground. And the very first one, I think it was Kevin Holland, where he steps back and says, you know, get up. And then Wonder Boy laughs and gives him a high five.
Not even a second to think about it.
Yeah. But, dude, it was just so fun watching these two guys. They laugh. They talk to each other. They give a little high five. Now, the attitude from Holland changed a little bit. Late third round, early fourth, he wasn't smiling as much, you know, and you could see he was in trouble. And, you know, as much as he was joking, telling Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, he's like, man, slow down. It's like, man, he put, you know, in his head, he really wished, like, man, dude, calm down a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
You're throwing a lot at me from every different angle. I thought he did such a good job mixing it up, dude. You know, those kicks to the body. Oh, my God.
Yeah, that one
Rich again,
right
look
there.
At that, dude.
Man,
yeah.
How did that man stay standing? He got no knockdowns until the very end.
Man, I don't know. And it's just so much respect should be going out to Kevin Holland. Bisping was going off saying like, hey, not really impressed with his performance. This is mixed martial arts. He should have mixed it up a lot more. But there's got to be respect that's tossed Kevin Holland's way, man. Like he gave Wonder Boy everything he could handle that first round. He breaks his hand, like you said. For anybody to break their hand in the first round and they make it all the way to the fourth round, through the fourth round, and he didn't get dropped until the very end. Man, props to Kevin.
Adrenaline doesn't last for like 20 minutes, so he's feeling that for a while.
Yeah, and the body kicks.
Yeah, and to Michael Bisping, bro, like, yeah, they're fighters, but you fought without an eye. Like, let him do what he wants.
Yeah,
and we're in the entertainment business. He's entertaining us.
He's one of the most entertaining fighters on the roster, both from the way that he talks, his lead-ups, his build-ups. He's a hilarious guy. He's a likable guy. He's a superhero outside of mixed martial arts where he stops crime in real life. If you don't know about that. Yeah, anybody that doesn't know about that, just Google Kevin Holland stopping crime, and you'll find
there's
maybe
more
like 4.
than one story.
It's
like
crazy. And on top of that, when he's in the octagon, man, he's willing to leave it all out there. He's given us some really exciting fights, like the KO against Jauregui off his back, where he KOs him. Come on,
that knockout, I love it, and it also frustrates me so bad that Buckley got the KO of the year over that. I'm like,
oh yeah,
I get that was a cool kick, but if you take into consideration that Jauregui looks like a massive human being compared to Kevin Holland, and he knocked him out from the bottom. From the bottom, he's underneath him, smacks him. He's like, "Oh, he's out," and just stands up and just murders him.
Now, dude, he had one of the best 2020s, right? He fights Anthony Hernandez. He stops Anthony Hernandez, fights Joaquin Buckley, drops him, wins a split decision over Darren the Dentist Stewart, beats Charlie Ontiveros, beats Jauregui. So he has 5 fights in 2020, man. He just skyrockets his popularity, right? And then he starts going up in competition, right? He fights Derek Brunson, fights Marvin Vettori. He loses to Khamzat Chimaev later on, which, I mean, let's be real, Khamzat is an absolute killer right now, and loses Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. So my question to you right now is, do you see him ever stepping into that next level, that next, like the echelon of who are considered the premier fighters in either welterweight or middleweight?
I mean, yes, but it all just depends on his attitude. I mean, like Michael was saying, if you do a little bit more MMA, like throughout the fight, I think he definitely wins a few of those fights. But he's definitely got to put some weight on a bit, like some muscle. I don't think him versus Marvin is a good matchup in terms of like size wise.
Yep.
Especially when you can't wrestle. But he is talented. He's got the cardio for days. He's got chin and like the way the manner to take punches. He's not going to go out. But I don't know.
And he doesn't have like a very normal like attack style, right? Like he's a kung fu fighter, he says, and very much like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, where you don't find very many fighters at that level as good as Stephen Wonderboy Thompson with his karate, right? So fighters, when they go in and they get prepared for Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, it's a little difficult. I think it's the same for Kevin Holland, where he's a little unorthodox.
It's sort of like fighting Michel Pereira. Like, you don't know what you're getting when you get in there. And it could be, I'm going to win or I'm going to show up.
Well, you're not going to get wrestling. You at least know that.
Especially when, like, through all his interviews, he's like, I can't wrestle.
Yeah, dude, he's so funny, man. That's one of the things I love about Kevin Holland. He's very upfront. He's upfront about the people he's fighting. He'll say, hey, I don't like him, and this is what I don't like about him. But he's also very self-aware. He knows what he's good at. He knows what his strengths are, and he knows what his opportunities are. And the tough thing is, how long have you been wrestling, Toasty?
Since middle school.
Since middle school, right? So you've been wrestling since middle school. For somebody that goes into mixed martial arts, that haven't wrestled their entire life. They focus on striking their entire life. And then the last 2 years, they started wrestling. And they wrestle every single day, Toasty. It's a part of their regimen, right? Can they ever get to the level of somebody that's been wrestling since elementary school, middle school, all the way through MMA? Do you think it's still possible for them?
If that other person stopped, like,
but that's
if
the
they
thing,
were
right?
like, I'm just gonna not train wrestling anymore, then maybe he could catch up.
But if you had that person that's been training since middle school, all the way through mixed martial arts, they don't stop. And then you have this guy that just started training a couple years ago. It's tough, right?
Yeah, unless you're in like the Olympic training academy or around Jordan Burroughs or like Kyle Dakes of the world, Ed Ruths.
Yeah.
You're not really gonna, maybe MMA wrestling, but if you focus on like wrestling, there's just no way. Like I'm never gonna catch up to those people.
And that's what makes it so tough for me when I think about Kevin Holland possibly stepping up to that next level, that next tier of fighters. I think that he definitely belongs in the top 15. I think there's a lot of fun fights from the top 15. But when I take a look at the division here, let me pull it up real quick. At the welterweight division, in the top 15, you have D-Rod. That's a fun matchup, right?
That's a
really
fight
fun
too.
matchup. Yep. Michelle Pajeda, that's another fun matchup there. Now we start going into Chiesa, which I still think Holland has a good chance against Chiesa, but Chiesa has that wrestling and that jiu-jitsu background as well. And hey, let's not throw out that Kevin Holland is a black belt in jiu-jitsu also, right? Travis Luter, a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So he's like,
okay.
But then after that, it gets
okay.
I mean, you have Jorge Masvidal.
That's a good fight.
It is, but you have Rachmanov, Sean Brady, Jeff Neal,
Rachmanov
Thompson. No, Gilbert Burns, who can wrestle and is a jiu-jitsu practitioner. Bilal Muhammad. Don't even talk about that fight. It'd be crazy. So I think it'd be very tough for him to stay in the top 10.
It just depends on who the UFC gives him, but yeah, it would be hard.
Yeah, because I think that's the thing, right? Once you get into the top 15, like outside of the top 15, you know what? Let's set you up with some fun matchups. Let's see who's available. Let's set you up with some fun matchups. When you're in the top 15, as soon as you break into that top 15, it's like, okay, well, who else is in the top 15 that you're going to be fighting, right? Because it's like if I'm the UFC, I'm not just going to leave you in the 15th spot. Like we have to see what we got in you, and we have to continue putting you up against number 14, 13, 10.
Especially when you consider that the UFC doesn't like to give people who are like at the end of their contracts opportunities to like boost themselves so that they can get better contracts. It's just sort of like their business plan. So I don't think that Kevin Holland's going to get beneficial matchups here in like the next 3 fights.
Man. Well, we'll see what happens with Kevin Holland. Either way, it was a fun fight, fight of the night. In recency bias, you always hear, especially this close to the end of the year, where they're like, maybe fight of the year. There's been a lot of really great fights this year. Yeah, but this, I think, is definitely going to be in the conversations of one of the best fights of the year.
I think if I had to predict, I think it'll get like 3rd place.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. Yeah. All right, man. Do you have anything else on that fight?
If you have one fight to watch on the card to go back, especially since it's a free fight, that would be the one.
100%, man. 100%. All right. We do have, I think it's like 12 fights to cover. Some of these are pretty quick, but we'll go through them. We have RDA Rafael dos Anjos versus Bryan Barberena. Dude, Rafael dos Anjos, man. I feel like ever since I started watching MMA, like I've heard of Rafael dos Anjos.
Yeah. And unfortunately, he's always going to be connected to some of these people that have fan bases that are like, that's the guy and you're garbage. Like the fact that he fell out of the Conor fight is such a asterisk on his like media presence or whatever. People are going to be like, oh, but he ran away from Conor, blah, 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 blah. I don't think RDA is running from anyone.
He's a monster, man. He's an absolute monster. And the thing with RDA is that he's okay. His record 32-14 now after that win. So it's 46 fights. 46 fights. This guy has seen it all. He's been in there with almost everybody. He's fought the who's who. And this has made him such a crafty veteran that when you have somebody like a Bryan Barberena, right? I don't think there's much that a Bryan Barberena can throw Rafael dos Anjos' way that he hasn't already seen.
Yep.
Right. So,
and then he's
go ahead.
he even went in after in the post fight and he was like, yeah, he's so big. And it's like RDA's seen huge people and fought huge people. So it's not anything new to him.
Nothing
He knew
new,
exactly
man.
what to do.
But I think this is just a case of Barberena, biting off more than he could chew. This is a big jump for Barberena in talent level. RDA, was RDA, let me see, is he even ranked? I don't remember.
I don't think so anymore. But that's because he hasn't fought.
Oh, yeah, he is. He's seventh. Seventh lightweight.
Really?
Yeah. He in the lightweight division, he's ranked 7th.
He hasn't fought in like a year and a half or something like that, right?
I don't know, man. I feel like it's been a minute since I've seen him. Now, that's at the lightweight. So he wasn't ranked in welterweight, and this fight was at 170. So that's probably why we didn't see a ranking next to his name. Right. But either way, man, we're talking about, like I said, somebody who I consider to be one of the legends in MMA. And you're Bryan Barberena. You're known for some of your street brawls, that you have going into the octagon. And like I said, Rafael dos Anjos a little too crafty for that. And you see like the clinch and the underhooks against the cage with RDA and the simple inside leg trip that he did in that first round. And I was like, man, that was almost too easy. Second round goes back to the well, man. Underhooks, pins him up against the cage, single inside leg trip, back down. And I was like, oh, man, I don't think it's going to go beyond there. And it didn't, man.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the fight with Robbie was probably a detriment to Barberena in this fight. I think he thought it was going to be a lot like that, and RDA was going to feed into like the brawl type of mentality. And RDA is not. He's a jiu-jitsu master. He's going to go down and do what he needs to do to win the fight.
Yeah, dude, he's fantastic, man. I still enjoy watching him fight. I still get excited when I see his name on one of the cards. So I'm hoping that we see him make another run here. Now I'm wondering, with this fight having been at 170, is he just like overcutting weight? Like can't really make 155 anymore? And he's saying like, hey, I'm going to try to make another run at 170. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I think there was a time a year or two ago where he said he was considering retiring because he couldn't make the weight at 55. And that's probably what made him jump up. But it's a question of whether or not, again, the UFC is going to give him matchups that are going to ladder him up to that top.
Yeah. And man, that first round, I think this image of the first round there where he almost sinks in the head and arm choke. And unfortunately for him, the side that he needed to move over to was the right side, right up against the cage, right? So he couldn't really get enough of leverage there and squeeze to be able to get Barberena out. But he was just too much for Barberena on the ground.
Yeah, even when he got into mount, I was like, the commentary were like, oh, he's so close. He's so close. And I'm like, unless he gets over to that side, like you're either going to get it like immediately. Like if they're going to tap, they're just going to tap. Or you're going to get one of those guys that like, oh, I have an inch or a centimeter on my carotid artery. I think I can survive.
Yeah. And I think that's what happened because the squeeze seemed pretty tight, but without that additional leverage, it was enough for Barberena to just be able to survive, like you said, hanging on by a thread.
The beard keeps you alive.
Any extra space it could give you, huh? Oh, man. And there it is, man. So RDA finished it with a rear naked choke. Didn't really seem like he had it under the chin. But as you all know, man, can turn into a neck crank sometimes. And if that arm is right across your mouth, your nose, cranking at your neck at the exact same time, for sure, man. For sure. So, another finish for RDA in his career, man.
RDA with the RNC.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, man. Ready to move on to the next one?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. We had Matheus Nicolau versus Matt Danger Schnell. So I have this running thing on the podcast, man, where like I've said for the longest time, I don't feel like Matt Schnell should really be ranked where he's at, and so whenever I'm like, hey, somebody needs to break into the top 15, like, hey, put him up against Matt Schnell. But in this last fight that Matt Schnell had, which was an absolute barn burner, man, against Sumadarji, he earned my respect and a lot of other people's respect out there, right? So going into this, I was like, hey, You know, he had to shave his head, had to shave his luscious chest hair to be able to make weight. He's coming in a new man. We'll see what he gives Matheus Nicolau. Not much of a contest, though.
Yeah, that was sort of like why I picked him. I was like, oh, he had to shave his head to make weight. Maybe he'll be like super, super dedicated for this. And also, I kind of am not a big fan of how Nicolau fights. Like, I understand and it's super effective, but at the same time, I'm not a big fan of the like, hey, let me run, punch. Hey, let me run, punch. It's sort of like a non-entertaining version of Stephen Thompson for me, at least.
Yeah, and because he is a huge counter puncher, right? And he is willing to wait a lot more than most other fighters to have any action. Man, this is probably one of the worst matchups that Matt Schnell could have had in the division, because Schnell, and I noticed in his last fight, he has a big tell on when he's gonna strike. And I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but he when he feints, he takes 2 small shuffle steps and drops left, right with his head movement and stands back up. 2 little shuffle steps, left, right, stands back up. So if you're Matheus Nicolau, like, I don't know if you noticed it, like you said, he was waiting to throw that straight right. And so like you'd see Schnell like shuffle, and Nicolau would catch him with a straight right. And then when he's going to throw an actual punch, he has a big step, plants the left, and then will come in with a hook, either left or right hook. Nicolau had his timing down since the very beginning. If he would shuffle in for a feint, he'd go with a straight right. If Schnell would take a big step and plant, he would counter with a big right hook of his own. And I was like, dude, it's too easy for Nicolau.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot on this one. It was just a matter of like the same thing every single time. And you would think that Schnell would listen to his corner a bit more. But you know, it gets frustrating when you're in there and like you just cannot achieve what you think you can achieve. Like you're just trying to do the same thing over and over and it's just like not working. You would try to change it, but at the same time, sometimes you just get frustrated and you bang your head against a wall or a fist.
Yeah. Or fists. Yeah, man. So Nicolau with a big finish, man. The first time that he dropped him, he hit him right on the forehead, as you see here. Dropped Schnell a little bit. Did a good job surviving that one. And that last one,
there was a lot of temple shots, like
there
right
was
on that temple, a lot of them.
And that last shot that actually took Schnell out was like right behind, like his ear, kind of like on top of his ear. Discombobulated after that, falls, and then Nicolau with the ground and pound to finish it out. So tough loss for Matt Schnell. Now falls to 16-18. Matheus Nicolau, though, man, continues climbing. Exciting or not, 19-2 now.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't really know who you give either one of them to. I don't really even know who's above Nicolau in the rankings, but yeah, I don't really know like who's going to want to take that fight for a while.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see. The UFC is definitely going to have to force Nicolau on somebody, though. I think he is going to be one of those guys where he's like, I don't really want to fight him.
It's going to be like a Ryan Hall situation.
Yes. Good example. All right, man. Since you don't have much on that fight anymore, I've pretty much said all my 2 cents that I had to say on that one. We can move on to Sergei Pavlovich versus Tuivasa. This is where really the main heartbreak started for me, man. Because I'm a Tuivasa fan. You know?
Yeah. It was a very sad minute and a half.
It was, man. And you know, on the picks, man, I picked a Wonder Boy Thompson to win. Okay, by the way, your boy last night went 12-14. Just so you know.
Yeah, that's why you pick with your head and not your heart, because I was wrong the whole time.
Oh man, but I picked Wonder Boy Thompson, even though Kevin Holland's a Fort Worth boy. He's repping, the local city over here. And on this one here, I still picked Tuivasa, even though Pavlovich has been on a tear. He's 17-1. I want to say that the only loss that he has is to Uberim, also known as Overeem. But yeah, man, with Tuivasa, I thought if Pavlovich is willing to exchange, Tuivasa is very dangerous when he's hurt, right? And we saw this again last night. when Sergei Pavlovich landed a couple of big shots, had Tai Tuivasa hurt, and there was a time where he just lands a big right hook while he's sitting off the cage. And I was like, okay, there we go. When he fought Greg Hardy, it was the exact same thing. He was hurt. When he was leaning back, puts up a big hook, wild hook, catches Hardy. Hardy's out. Now, Pavlovich, we're talking leaps and bounds above Hardy. But still, I thought, if Tai lands, he has a shot to put Pavlovich out, man. What do you think of this fight?
Yeah, it's one of those things where any heavyweight shape like either one of these two guys, if they connect, it kind of just goes out. But you can't bet on that the whole time if you're fighting somebody who also does the same thing.
So tough, man. And you see the difference in boxing and just how crisp the boxing was for Pavlovich. And I think there's a picture, right, where you see Tai Tuivasa coming in with a wide right, and Pavlovich is like, okay, if you're coming in wide, man, I'll get to you first with this straight left, and so he's slipping and hitting him with the straight left, and like Tai's arm is still like out here, like probably still like a foot away from even reaching Pavlovich, and I was like, man, that's pretty much the entire fight, man. Pavlovich also is just so much faster to the target.
Oh, go for it. Sorry.
No, that was it. I was just saying Pavlovich is just so much faster to the target.
It's also another bad thing that Tai does. Whenever he's hurt, he looks at the floor and just swings. So even if like he was going to connect, like right there, he's looking right at the floor, and Pavlovich is looking right at the target. Like if you were gonna make connect or make a contact, somebody looking right at the target going straight, it's like half the time it's got to go.
Yeah, man. And I mean, Tai got beat up on this one. When he was sitting down against the cage and the ref stops it, and the camera zooms in on Tai, and you just see his nose was busted up. He was bleeding from his cheek. It was just not a good look, man. And Tai has such a big fan base now. Huge fan base.
Why did you do that to us, Rich?
But in classic Tai fashion, man, big old smile on his face at the end, congratulating his opponent. His Instagram, he goes out and says, hey, I'm sorry to let everybody down. Thank you so much, my fans. Hey, classic Tai fashion. Might not be doing any shoeies last night, might have not, but he'll get him on the next one now.
Yeah, it was also very interesting in the post fight. I didn't know Pavlovich had trained with DC, so it was pretty cool to know that both opponents sort of trained with the same people. Tai, when COVID had started, was over here and literally had to leave the country before he got shut in. He was training with DC, and Pavlovich used to train with DC back in the day. So it's sort of like DC's little cadets.
DC's like minions. Disciples.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That's the word.
This should move Sergei Pavlovich to 4th in the rankings, which puts it at Sergei Pavlovich, Curtis Blades, Stipe Miocic, Cyril Gane, and Francis Ngannou.
I call that the roadblock.
Yeah, exactly. John Jones is going to fall somewhere in that mix, right? We don't know. They were talking Miocic versus John Jones for a while. That's fallen off. Miocic had a loss in the family recently, so I think his head's somewhere else. So the conversation is now back on Ngannou versus John Jones. So we'll see what happens there. But from that, Tom Aspinall. If you ask me, I put Tom Aspinall in front of Tai Tuivasa as well.
Yeah, for sure. But the problem is you don't know how long that knee injury is going to take him out. I mean, Niko Price, who we're going to talk about eventually, had to be out for a year and a half because of his knee. So we'll see.
And so for me, I put Tom Aspinall, like you said, I don't know how long he's going to be out, but I still put him in front of Tai Tuivasa as far as his skill sets, and I think his potential within the division. From there, I feel like Tai Tuivasa and everybody else kind of are in the same category, right? You have Tai Tuivasa, Derek Lewis, Alexander Volkov, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Marcin Tybura, Chris Daukaus, Sergei Spivak, Alexander Romanov, Blagoy Ivanov. So it's like all those people in that same category where, all those people can kind of play and they can all end up within the top 15 different spots. But from Tom Aspinall on for me, like that, like you said, that's a roadblock. That's the elite of the elite right there.
And beyond the roadblock part, it's like the UFC cannot schedule heavyweight fights right now, especially in the top, 8? Like, nobody wants to fight each other. Nobody wants to give up their ranking, which is sort of understandable. The top 5 are just impossible to book.
Yep. Yeah, there's something always going on. When does that change? You know, like as a UFC, when do you put your foot down and say, hey, like if you're inactive X amount of time, you're off the rankings?
Well, they're trying to do that. They're trying to force John and Ngannou's hand right now with the whole, we're booking this fight. We're going to do all this promo for it. We're going to sort of faux announce it. And then if you don't do it, we're just going to throw, not Derek Lewis, Curtis Blades.
Curtis Blades?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to do a lot more of that.
All right. Enough talking about our boy that got taken out last night. That sad. And we'll talk about somebody else. Dude, I've been super high on this guy. He's been an underdog, and I don't know how many fights in a row. I've picked him as a dog every single time, and he's coming through for me. That's Roman Dolidze facing Jack Hermansson last night. Roman Dolidze taking this on short notice, I think 1 week notice. And
because Brunson fell out, right?
Yes, because Brunson fell out. So still took my boy, Roman Dolidze. He was in the States anyways. He usually trains in Georgia, and he just happened to be in training with, I believe it was Pavlovich. They were
not
saying,
America, Georgia.
No. Georgia. Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. He's not chilling in Atlanta. You know what I mean? Yes. So he was already in the States. He said, sure, I'll take the fight. And what a perfect opportunity. Because like I said, I've been so high on Dolidze. So to see him get a crack at, the top 10 rankings, I was super excited for him, man. Super excited. And he made the most of it.
I lost your sound. Give me 1 second. There we go.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm back.
You're back? Yeah, so no, I was just saying, getting a crack at the top 10 rankings, and he made the most of it, man.
Yeah, and I don't know if you or any of the fans that watch us play Pokemon, but both of these two have Intimidate as their trait. Like, they are the most intimidating human beings I have ever seen stand around.
That is hilarious. So, hey,
they don't have to
talking
fight.
about
They're just like,
you're talking about lengthy fighters. And Hermansson is able to cover so much ground with one step because he'd be like, I don't know, 5-6 feet away. He'd take one giant step and come in with that calf kick, and he covered half the octagon, it seemed like. And he caught Dolidze over and over and over again with that calf kick to start off. Dolidze, though, man, hey, my boy, dude, I'm telling you, I love Roman Dolidze. He can come in, with the shovel hooks, with a sneaky jab. He can mix it up so well, man. I'm Dolidze to the moon, bro. Dolidze to the moon.
Also, he's one of the few fighters in the UFC who have won any form of ADCC. It may have not been the whole thing. He won ADCC Asia. But
no way.
Dude, that's so fucking talented.
That's we got Rich chiming in here saying
both.
Scarlet or Violet Toasty. Oh.
I get both packs every single generation.
Man, that's
red and blue.
Commitment right there. That's commitment right there. So I honestly don't know anything about Pokemon other than
why do you got to do that to me?
I like the guy with the little fire tail.
He said Pokemon, dude. He did that on purpose.
I'm trying to not get him through my camera.
Oh man, thanks, Rich. Hey, you mentioned
you bring up Charmander. I always tell everybody that if I ever have a daughter, my first daughter, her first name's gonna be Charm, and her middle name's gonna be Ander.
Oh dang, that's legit. That's commitment right there. But yeah, so Dolidze, man, have you ever seen that where somebody catches somebody in a calf slicer and ends up in top position on their back and keeps the calf slicer in there like that?
No, but that's because nobody in the fucking world is going to last that long and that deep of a calf slicer. That was crazy.
So
Jack Hermansson's like, I'm a black belt. You're going to just kill me because I'm not going to tap.
We have Dolidze that ends up on his back. And Dolidze on his back, like I said, he's a crafty fighter. Here's a picture of him landing a shovel hook, which you could see him making the adjustments on the angle that his shot was coming in. But he throws up an armbar, doesn't land. Right? Reverse triangle, look tight. Hermansson's able to get out. She's like, sure, you're giving me your leg.
Upside down triangle, reverse triangle from the back.
Yes, you're right. My bad. Upside down triangle. And then he goes through, he grabs his leg, and you're like, okay, he might be going for a leg lock. Hermansson tries to sneak out and like kind of like step around. And he's like, oh, you give me a calf slicer. That's cool. And Hermansson lets go of the arm, which gives Dolidze better leverage, rolls over in pain because you could see him squeaming like his face immediately. And the ground and pound.
Oh, God.
Now, you talk about this guy being intimidating. Rich, can you show the next one? No, show the next picture. Look at that man's face. Look at that man's face, dude. He is trying to take your soul with every punch he's landing, dude. It was so scary. Dolidze, my guy, dude. Like I said, Dolidze to the moon. Let's do this.
Yep,
so now,
absolutely. That man is going to be a problem for anybody in the division. And I think in that little scramble that cost Jack the most was like mentally. I think he thought that he could do this like knee slide that has been going around a lot. He kind of lifts his leg and then just sort of tries to slide out the bottom leg that's trapped. But then as soon as he did that, he was like, oh, it's not moving.
You could see it.
And then at that point, he kind of like released his hand, which was like exactly what kind of gave it up. And then Dolidze goes and grabs him and he's like, oh no, this man's an octopus. I can't get out.
Look at that face, man. It's so scary. So now, and I love the post-fight interview where DC's like, hey, with that fight, you're breaking into the top 15. And Dolidze looks like such a cool guy. He's like, top 10. And then DC's like, yeah, you're right, man. Follow your top 10. Because Jack Hermansson was ranked 8th. So you ask me, man, just pop him in there. Pop him right in top 8.
You can leave him at 15, and he could still fight anybody in the top 5, and it'd be deserved.
Do it. I love it, man. Like I said, I love Dolidze. I'm so excited to see who his next fight is. My guy took this in a 1-week notice. Give him somebody in the top 7 with the full training camp. See what happens. What's
also was really cool about this fight is usually when you match up two grapplers, you get like a couple of different things. Either they're on the ground the whole time, and it's sort of exciting with scramblers for people who know about grappling, or you get Maia versus Askren, which is the worst stand-up battle in the world. This was exciting in all aspects, and both of them were doing great standing and on the bottom.
Such a fun fight, man. Such a fun fight. All right. We still have a lot of fights to cover. We've got 15 minutes left before we hit that hour mark. So we'll kind of blow through some of these other fights. Before this one, we had Eryk Anders versus Kyle Daukaus. The Daukaus brothers, I'm just going to go out there and say it. I feel like they've been overrated, so this was an easy pick for me when I went through and I picked Anders. Anders coming back from a neck injury, but I thought that Anders had the power and the speed in his hands to be able to take Daukaus out.
Yeah, it was like a precision versus power battle, like very typical, and the power broke his nose immediately, and he could not recover.
Yeah, man, he dropped Daukaus a couple times. I didn't understand why Anders, after he dropped Daukaus, kept on playing into this little, work that Daukaus was doing off his back. If I'm Anders, I pull Holland and I step back and say, get up, make the ref stand him back up, and let's do it, right? Because I felt like, especially after the first knockdown, he gave Daukaus too much time to recover, because I think he could have finished it if he would just let him stand back up. But Anders said, man, he's trying to be more patient.
It's probably one of those things where the coach had been instilling patience into him, and he's like, all right, I'm going to show you what you told me to do.
And I'll still drop him later on.
Exactly. It's probably confidence in those hands too.
Oh, for sure, man. And one of the best nicknames still in the game. Yeah, boy. Come on, man.
It's better than some of the other ones I've heard. Like, there's some bad nicknames in the UFC.
There is. Yeah, boy, Eryk Anders, though, comes through with the win. Stopping Kyle Daukaus. By the way, I think it was 9 of 14 fights, I think, that were finishes in Orlando. They got spoiled, man. Very good. They got spoiled.
Well, it was a stacked card, too.
It was, dude. I mean, on paper, it was stacked, and then it delivered, too. That's always fun. That's always fun.
And it still lost two fights that were going to be exciting as well.
Very true, man. I'm sad about one of the fights. We'll cover it later. But we had Philip Rowe versus Niko Price. Niko Price is one of my favorite guys to watch, man.
Same. Like, I love Niko, and it sucks to see him come back after a long injury and then pull a man who looks like he is 2 times his size.
Oh my God, he looked massive in there.
It looked like watching UFC or a WWE video game where like you make a created character and just max out the stats for that division, size wise, and then you fight a regular person.
Dude, he is absolutely massive next to him. Rowe is massive next to Price. And you could see some of the reach. Rowe seemed a little bit faster. He was showboating a lot that first round, man. And I thought to myself, oh, the disrespect. Because he must not know that Niko Price is an absolute dog, man. So you know what? Get your little dances going on right now, your little funny faces you're making or whatever. And Niko Price is going to make this a grueling fight. And he did. That third round, Philip Rowe comes out. He looks exhausted. We talk about Holland's demeanor changing. Rowe's demeanor changed coming out in that third, man. Like, his eyes were a little bit more wide because he was probably thinking like, oh, shit, man. Like, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight right now. And Niko Price comes out and just empties the tank, lands a couple solid shots. He made an adjustment because, Rowe's so big, and this is the adjustment I was about to talk about, coming in over with the hook instead of straight. Which was a nice adjustment because Rowe, see how he's leaning back, was kind of using his shoulder sometimes to kind of try to parry that a little bit. But like Niko Price, man. Yeah, exactly. But without the hand. And he used his face instead to stop a couple of those fists. And Niko Price, man, just empties the tank. And I thought for a second there, like, he's got it. He's got this. Come on, Niko Price. I'm super excited. And gas went empty.
Yeah, I think the gas went empty because if you watch that first round, he does this thing where he kind of jumps off the mat when he comes with his backhand. And when you're lifting your whole body off the mat to throw that, 1, you're losing power, and 2, you're using a lot of energy to move your entire weight off the floor. So I feel like if he had just planted on those punches, he was missing anyway on the first round. If he had just planted and thrown, I think he would have had that bit of energy to at least survive the third, and then maybe at the end of it, put it on him like he was doing at the beginning of the third.
Man, it was a frustrating one because, like I said, I just thought it was so close. Hey, shout out DL. Thanks for joining us live, man. Joining Tosi and I. Greatly appreciate it. But yeah, Niko Price, he's getting up there in age 2, man. We'll see what happens with him next. Rowe hopefully was humbled a little bit in that third round. And we'll see what happens from here. But Rowe, I think, was a hometown boy, they were saying, right? From that area in Florida?
I think so, yeah. I did not listen to a lot of the commentary. I tried my best. Also, I went to a restaurant to watch the fights with my lady. Nice. It was good to not hear them talk about the hoopla they like to talk about.
Yeah. There was some funny stuff. Bisping can be a funny guy sometimes, man.
John Anik, I'm sure, I'm going to just take a guess, probably talked about half the fighters' children.
Still one of Anik's best moments as an announcer. Both of them fighting child custody. And I'm like, wait, what? All right, man. We'll go on to the next one here. So you know how I said Dolidze is my boy? We're about to talk about my girl right now, Angela Hill. I've been preaching Angela Hill for the longest time. I think she's a couple of bad split decisions away from being ranked top 6, top 5 in that division. But she faced Emily Ducote.
Yeah. I would rather Angela Hill any of the day than Chikagian. And I think they promote Chikagian way more than they should. Angela Hill is a dog. And I don't know who Ducote's coaches are, but someone's got to tell them that Angela likes to clinch. She is a Muay Thai fighter. And she will throw knees the entire time.
Especially if you let her.
You can't, you know what I mean? You get put in the clinch, just be like, this is good enough. We're good.
It was such a dominant performance, though, for Angela Hill, man. And I think it was a performance that she needed because, like I said, she's been on the bad side of a couple of bad split decisions, or Sal Diamato decisions, as I like to call them. And so to have a clear, decisive win against somebody else that's ranked with the performance that she had, one of the best performances that I've seen from Angela Hill, nonstop pressure, mixing up her strikes well, and Ducote had a really hard time, moving left and right. She was just moving straight back, which gave Angela Hill the ability to kind of blitz in with like a 3-hook combo and just blitz straight. So the footwork from Ducote wasn't really there, and Angela Hill took full advantage. And once she caught her, like you said, in that Muay Thai clinch, dude, Ducote was lost. She could not get out of that clinch. And, I messed around saying, like, especially if you let her, she didn't want to let her, of course, but she just didn't have an answer for it.
Correct. Yeah. You have to put something out there, especially if the first time or first three times you try to do the same defense, it doesn't work. Try anything else. Shoot a takedown. Push your hips out instead of in. Throw something as she's like standing there holding you. Anything else. Foot trip.
Dude, I'm sure she's very sore today. Her ribs must be in massive pain. And like I said earlier, DL joined us here live. So DL, if you just joined us, man, let us know what your favorite fight of the night was on the comments there, and we'll see if matches up with what we said earlier today. But before that fight, before Angela Hill's fight, we had Michael Johnson versus Diakiese.
Yep. I was so excited for this one because earlier this year, I actually got to meet Michael Johnson personally. I got to shake those stone hands he's got. It's awesome. It's so cool to see him get what he deserves. A good fucking decision finally, instead of getting Khabib or all these other people that like just use him as a springboard, but he's so talented. He's so good.
Yep. And hey, so let me ask you, cool dude?
Is he cool Absolutely. Dude? Like there's so many people that were walking up to him to talk, and eventually it kind of gets annoying just in general, but he didn't seem that way. He was like happy to see everyone. You came up and he was on his phone. Oh, what's up, man? Hey, how's it going?
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's so cool. I love it. I love to hear stuff like that. But Michael Johnson, so you saw it in the picture where they're weighing in and they're facing off. He has a smirk on his face. Like Diakiese has no idea what he's getting himself into right now.
At all.
And same thing like Rowe, Diakiese that first round was feeling himself a little too much. You know what I mean? And coming out of that first round, I thought like, hey, it's not a super clear, decisive round.
Yeah, the commentary, that was the one I listened to. And I'm like, why are you guys thinking that he decisively won that?
It wasn't like super, super clear. I still think he won it. I thought he did enough, but I didn't think it was enough for him to be dancing around and showboating and stuff. And then second and third round, man, I feel like he got a hang of his head movement, and so even when Diakiese was, bobbing left and right, he was able to meet him with the jab on every angle and setting up his 1-2, which he's really good at, man. And I at the end when they announced 30-27 for Johnson, I was like, oh no, here we go, bad decision. Because like I said, I thought Diakiese had done enough to win that first round, but no. You had a 29-28, 29-28, and a 30-27. And props to Michael Johnson, man, for getting back on the win column.
Yep. Very, very, very happy to see this fight. Maybe Diakiese will go back into the training room and be like, less confidence, more skills.
I like it, man. DL says, I was not expecting that Tai Tuivasa loss. Man, look, Pavlovich, 17-1 now, so he was 16-1 going in. He has the skill set. He's a massive, massive man. He's fast for his size. I knew that he'd give Tai Tuivasa some problems, but like you, Deal, I was expecting Tai Tuivasa to sneak a big right hand in and take Pavlovich out, man. Both Toasty and I already cried about the loss, though. We're in mourning. We are, man. All right, so before that fight, oh, by the way, we skipped Guida versus Holtzman. Just want to give a quick shout out to Guida. Props to him, and gets another win in his illustrious career. About to turn 41, dude, in the next 4 days, I believe, if I remember correctly. So early happy birthday to Mr. Guida, because we know he listens to the podcast all the time. So
it gives credence to all the people that say that, like, oh, they need to do these older fighters better on the way out. You gave an older fighter, another older fighter. You didn't give him to a young lion. You can do it.
Yep. True. Good call, man. Good call. All right. Next we had Darren Elkins versus Pearce.
Man.
So I know his nickname's The Damage. I've always called him Darren Takes Damage Elkins.
Yeah.
This one was a tough one to watch, man. Elkins is so awkward. And from the first round, he has like this body movement where like he looks labored and he looks lethargic. He looks like he's been rocked before he's even been hit. And it's just like a really weird fight style that he has. He leaves himself open so much for shots. And every Elkins fight that I've ever watched, do you know what the number one thing they talk about with Elkins?
Heart.
His toughness and his heart.
Yeah.
Every single time. Every single fight. I can't think of one Elkins fight that I haven't watched where they don't focus on his toughness. That's not something you really want to be known for, man.
I mean, it's something that you can be known for, and it can be a positive, but it can't be the only thing you're known for.
Well said. Perfectly said. I absolutely agree. Because you do have to be tough to be a fighter, right? Some are tougher than others. But when that's your main thing, man, and everybody knows, oh, he could take a beating. He's so tough.
And that's got to be like the first kick he took, because immediately he started bleeding.
Right away. And look at, by the way, Pearce, this was the look on his face the entire time. I felt like he was like, hey, I'm like in a sparring match right now. Not much on the line. You know what I mean? We're moving around. We're landing some shots, getting ready for a fight. Look at him. He looks so calm in there. He almost looked bored. You know, so
a little bit, yeah. I think he kind of knew the results beforehand, like in his mind, and he was just like, clock in, clock out. I'm just like, he comes in tired to work, and he's just like, are we done yet?
Yeah, exactly. I still got 15 minutes of my shift left. This sucks.
Or that meme where you're like, oh, I'm ready to go home, and you look up and you still got 3 hours left.
Yeah, that was Pearce for sure. Now, when I was watching both the fighters, the thing I continued thinking was balance and unbalance. When you see his base, Pearce's base, the entire time as he's throwing a strike, as he's moving in and out, versus the base or lack thereof from Elkins, like that's the entire thing I focused on this entire fight because it was just so evident to me, man. So evident.
The thing that was evident to me was, like you said, he's off balance, but he shouldn't be. He's a wrestler. He should have a good base. Like, he's a state champion wrestler from high school. He doesn't use it. And I hate to say this, but I think it might be because of all the damage he's taken.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, there's no equilibrium there anymore.
And it kind of sucks that you say the damage he's taken, because that's his nickname.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, dude. All right. let's oh, by the way, look at that picture.
Oh,
dude.
God.
What a picture. And you say what you will about Elkins. You talked earlier, you said, hey, this is an entertainment business as well. And as much as I say the only thing you ever hear about Elkins is how tough he is, you know what? I'll never miss an Elkins fight. I'll tell you that.
At all. Ever.
You know what I mean? So props to Elkins in that sense.
The other person who learned from this fight is Dan. Hey, Dan, when you stand people up, you put them back down.
Rough night. Rough night for Dan Miragliotta last night.
He looked good, though. He's losing a lot of weight.
Well, that's good. Helps him move around the octagon a little more. All right, we're going to skip Natan Levy versus Renato Valdez for the sake of time. And we're going to talk about Francis Marshall and his UFC debut against Marcelo Rojo. At first, Marshall looked very, very tense. And then that second round, you could see that he loosens up a little bit more and he opens up, man. What do you think about Marshall?
I thought that one of the few commentary things that were said were pretty accurate. It was in this fight is like, it's his debut finally on a big show with a full crowd. That place was packed almost at the beginning. And he definitely had the jitters. You could see it. He didn't have the same motion he did in the second. His eyes were sort of like not glazed over, but like they weren't moving. Like he was just like fixated on a single point.
Yeah.
And you definitely see after he got that control in the first, he was like, oh, this is just like every fight.
Yeah, I know how to do this. I'm here for a reason. Man, for me, since the very beginning, I thought Rojo was so worried about the takedown. Because any threat, even of a level change, you saw a huge reaction from Rojo. Now, on one of those, Marshall does go in with a level change. Rojo doesn't sprawl all the way, but pushes down on Marshall's shoulders. And when Marshall stands back up, as he's pushing down the shoulders, came in with an elbow. And I thought, that's slick, man. Very slick from Rojo. Great game planning there. And then that second round comes along, like you said, he finally realized, like, I've been doing this for so long. This is like any other fight. Let me do what I do best. I thought, like, hey, Marshall's doing a good job of rolling with the punches as Rojo's coming in. But on one of those, he wasn't rolling with the punches. He was cocking his right hand back as far as he could and comes back and lands one right on Rojo. And, dude, that was all she wrote, man. Rojo was done after that. Nasty ground and pound, too, to finish it up.
It didn't look like Rojo was ready to take too many punches that fight. I mean, it was like the first big connection. He kind of got wobbled, and then as soon as that happened, he was like, "Oh, I can't do any of these. I can't take any of these."
Yeah, but man, Marshall was throwing everything he had into those hooks. It seemed like he threw a couple hooks to the body.
Fire.
Oh my God! But I'm excited to see Marshall again. That was his first fight in the UFC. Marcelo Rojo, he's had a rough go as of late. But he's 16-9, man, so he's a veteran in there. The last names he's lost to, Charles Jourdain, no slouch. Kyler Phillips, no slouch. So he's gone up against some tough names in the UFC, man. He's still waiting for his first UFC win, though. Who knows? I hope he doesn't get cut after this, because you lose 2 in a row and then you lose a third in a row to a newcomer. We'll see what happens, man.
That tends to be the UFC's MO.
Right? It does. I'm hoping to keep him in there.
Happened
for
to
one
my
more
boy
fight.
Noelle.
Oh, really? Exact same thing, huh?
Noelle and me went to high school together.
Oh, right on, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. Last fight we're going to talk about, Yazmin Jauregui versus Istela Nunes.
Hell of a way to open up the card.
Oh, my God. After this, if you're like, the rest of the card's going to be like this, I'm good.
Yep.
I'm good. Nunes lands a big right hand counter right on the nose of Jauregui, which sat her on her ass. She paused back up. Dude, this Yazmin girl, though, she is now 10-0, and she's got stones for hands, man. She looks like she has so much power, and especially for that weight division at 115 pounds, to see these girls cracking like this, dude, I'm excited for Nunes still, even though she lost this fight, because she showed up really well, I think. At the end, I think it was just Yazmin that made a couple more adjustments, to be able to land a couple more combos. She had a beautiful combo of this right, left, and then calf kick. Right hook, left hook, calf kick, which worked really well against Nunes a couple times. She's only 23 years old, man. 23.
Yeah, the big word for me in this fight was adjustments. It seemed like Nunes was just doing the same thing over and over, which worked at the beginning. But once the other one makes an adjustment, if you don't adjust back, doesn't usually end well for you.
Yeah, and I think it's like that in every sport, right? You see NFL teams, for example, going to halftime, and if they're able to make the right adjustments, they come back stronger if they're down by a lot of points. And then if the other team doesn't make any adjustments, they continue running the exact same thing. And guess what? The defensive coordinator figures something out to stop you at that point. So, and it's the exact same thing in fighting, man. Every single time they go in, they sit down in that corner, right? How many times does your corner toasty tell you, hey, this is what we noticed this round. This is what you should do this next round. Is it every time?
Yep. Well, every time that something isn't going your way, or they don't think that the other person's going to change, or they think the other person's going to change. If they think that the person's kind of like, this is what I do and I'm just going to do it, they usually tell you to keep doing the same thing, but that's very unlikely to happen. Like you said, if you're doing these sports, usually you or your team are making those adjustments. So if you don't make an adjustment in between that, it's usually a detriment.
Yep. And
basketball, football, baseball, everything.
Oh, every sport, right? The only thing that I did see with except for what?
Golf. An activity, not a sport.
Wait, oh, dang, dude, you went there, huh? That's hilarious. The only thing I would say with Yazmin is on that combo that I was talking about with the right hook, left hook, calf kick. I did notice she'd come in right, left, throw a calf kick. And when she'd throw the calf kick, her arms would come straight down and her face would be sticking out. That's when she got caught with that shot that dropped her. But like I said, she was able to make some of those adjustments. She wasn't leaving her face that far out, and her arms were still staying a little bit nice and tight as she was throwing that calf kick second round on. So, but dude, like you said, started off the night very well for UFC Fight Night in Orlando. Got everything going, and that was it, man. We've covered 12 fights, Toasty.
Yeah, we're good at this fights now. I'm getting my footing.
All right, and I think Rich, our producer, Rich the Casual, has the
man. It's time to move on to everyone's favorite part of the show: administrative detail, which includes the fights that we lost, and so we only have 2 this time, which is the shortest that I've ever seen. So you have to tell me. I actually have a question about these. So Tracy Cortez was supposed to fight Amanda Ribas. What fight replaced this fight? Because I didn't see either of them fight. I don't think.
It didn't get a replacement fight. It just that they moved other fights into the main card.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And then secondly,
and by the way, that was going to be a fun one too. Earlier I said there was one that I was going to be bummed out about. This one was going to be a really fun fight too. I was looking forward to it. Both of them little cutie pies. That's outside the fact though, because they both can throw hands. Tracy Cortez, by the way, did she get married already to Bryan Ortega?
Yeah, they're married.
Can you imagine the babies that those 2 are going to have? First off, they're going to be gorgeous. Okay, second, they're going to come out with little gloves on. Dude. That's insane. Absolute murderers, dude.
And then second, we had Derek the Brunson Burner Brunson versus Jack Hermansson. Would you say?
Wait, what?
What? You ever heard that? The Brunson Burner? But have you ever heard? Or what I wanted to ask was, would you think that this fight would have been more exciting than the one that we got from Jack Hermansson that you guys talked about earlier? So we're winners here. Everyone's a winner?
Yes. You know who's the biggest winner? Dolidze. I'm so happy Derek Brunson pulled out of this because everybody got to see my boy's talent, Dolidze's talent. Like I said, Dolidze to the moon. We got this.
Yeah. Dolidze and Brunson are like complete opposites, but like the same. They're both super talented, but Brunson is not entertaining, and Dolidze is super entertaining.
I love it. It couldn't have worked out better.
Perfect. And then we have the bonuses coming up.
Well, maybe
the bonuses being Stephen Thompson versus Kevin Holland. Y'all mentioned they got fight of the night. Performance of the night went to Tuivasa versus Sergei Pavlovich, $50,000 to Pavlovich. And then performance of the night, Roman Dolidze. Of course, you guys sang all his praises already. And I wanted to bring that photo up again, but it's way far back in the list. But
that look you get when you get a bonus,
Yeah.
That look, yes, exactly.
Yeah, $50,000
punches. This
one
was a tough one, man. Seeing this one here, Rich, because 9 out of 12 fights had finished, or 9 out of 14 fights had finishes.
Yeah, dude, give them the finish bonus.
Insane.
Give everyone the finish bonus.
We've seen it before. Where everybody that finishes on such a good card gets a bonus. So you know what?
It'll mess up the budget, dude.
It will mess up the budget.
We're in the last quarter. What am I thinking? Trying to be in the green.
Q4, dude.
At the same time,
or whatever.
At the same time, we don't know if that was given. Like we've seen, but we don't know when it hasn't happened. We don't know if they didn't give all these people bonuses. Like I could definitely see the 2 ladies getting in the back and Dana just going, "Here you go."
Yeah, which we've heard happens. We've heard happens quite a bit. Fighters have said all the time that Dana is known to go back there and just write a check and hand it off. So,
and like it's only in California where we get all the financial. Details.
Yes, details. But even then, if he goes over there and hands you a gift as a boss and it's off payroll, guess what?
Exactly.
You just got $50K non-taxed. Then you can
Mm-hmm.
take it to your local meat market, cash it out, and then
go bet on fights.
You're good. Exactly.
In honor of the sometimes called TMZ Will, we have a breaking tweet, guys, from
TMZ Will.
Yes. Yeah, Ariel Hawani. He says, and do you guys know about this guy? Let me read this again. Do you know about this guy named James Krause? The James Krause? You know about this guy? Never heard so he says, UFC's chief business officer, Hunter Campbell, has just informed all fighters that, effective immediately, fighters who choose to continue to be coached by James Krause or continue to train in his gym will not be permitted to participate in UFC events. So Toasty, cross that one off the list. You can't join this dude wherever he's at.
Dang. Gosh darn it. The big question I have about all of this, about this specific situation, is what are they going to do about Moreno versus Figgy? Because Brandon just started going over there and training. Are they really going to clear the fourth fight for these people?
Man, I think if you're Moreno, you just jump ship, right? It's a sinking
he's
ship
got
now.
the money too.
He's got the money. He'll go somewhere else. He's already in Las Vegas. Maybe you go to Couture. I don't know, man. Maybe he goes back to TJ just to train.
Yeah.
But this is crazy.
He's got
right? Because
34 pro fighters from that gym. So there's a lot of scrambling that's going to have to do.
Did you guys mention what he did? For people like me.
Gamble.
Oh, there was a Derek Minner, right? There was a fight that we covered a few weeks back, Rich. You were probably playing Nintendo Switch in the background while Will and I were talking about the fight. But it was a very weird fight because he goes into the first round. The very first kick he throws, he steps back and starts holding his knee. The other guy rushes in. Minner comes back in with the exact same knee and kicks the exact same knee, and then he falls back in massive pain. Fight's over. What's really weird about that, though, is that they took a look at Vegas bet lines, and right before the fight started, bets started skyrocketing for Derek Minner's opponent, like hours before the fight started. So the word is, okay, maybe Derek Minner knew he had this injury before he went in there. James Krause knew he had this injury before he went in there. They knew that this was going to end in this fashion. So maybe James Krause put word out there for a lot of people that, hey, bet the house on Derek Minner's opponent because you're going to make a lot of money.
Right.
So
and another caveat to that is he was on Ariel's show, I think 2 or 3 weeks before that.
Yeah, this is the best part.
He had openly admitted that he makes more money betting on fights than he does coaching or cornering.
Yes. Wow. And Ariel Helwani asked him, do you bet on your own fighters and your fights? And he goes, yes. So this leads me to believe that after the investigation, what the investigation has been, or on the investigation has been done so far, Nevada has enough information to say, well, we're suspending his license. We're suspending James Krause's license, right? Canada has now said, hey, we're banning betting on mixed martial arts. Well, and after all this happened, then UFC is like, oh, we got to do something about this. Yeah, hey, don't train with James Krause anymore. Anybody that trains with James Krause, you're not going to fight with us. So it's just James Krause, in my mind, is one of the best coaches in the UFC, man. One of the best coaches. He's able to get so much out of his fighters, and I don't think that he's fixing fights. I don't think that at all.
Correct.
But what I do think is that he has some of this inside information, which he leveraged to make extra money, like he did in this last fight, which is also, yes, which can also be a big no-no, right? So we'll see what happens with James Krause. It's unfortunate for me. UFC is losing one of the best coaches that they have. These fighters are losing an excellent coach, and for any of these fighters that live in that area, in the Kansas City area, now have to go find a new home.
Yeah, it really sucks for the lower end ones that don't have the money or live in that exact area, and that's their only option.
Yeah. So what do you do, right? Do you continue fighting there and fighting in smaller organizations or lower organizations because you don't know if you'll make it to UFC or not. But if you're also let's say that you're at the cusp and you're like, yeah, I think I'm right there and I could probably make it. At that point, you have to, right? Tosi, you have to jump ship.
I think the easiest option and the way to sort of just skirt this sort of bureaucracy that's happening is you just list your garage or something like that as your gym. You just list somewhere else and you don't bring Krause to the fights. Because what are they going to do? Send someone to watch you train, not at Glory?
Yeah.
It's not a good answer, but that is an answer.
Very similar to COVID when it was banned in certain cities and you couldn't train, right? And people were still training out of the garage or something else. You're right. Also, I found out that he has a Discord. And I'm actually really sad that I hadn't joined his Discord before that, because I probably would have bet on Garrick Minner's opponent myself. Hey, HLB Comer, shout out. He says, hello, beautiful people. Krause is a big drama show. Yes, in the words of who is that boxer? Triple G, right? Big drama show. He was also involved in the Megan Sanko drama. He was walking around with a Richard Mill watch. I remember wondering where he's getting all that money from. Megan Anderson, yes. And DL coming through says, I'm wondering if Krause will ever take any responsibility. Man, at a certain point, right? Like, I'm with you, HLB Comer, like, because he talks about all his real estate investments. He talks about all the stock investments he made. And I was like, man, he must have made a lot of money off Tough. No, wait, they don't really get paid for that. He must have made a lot of money off his fights. Wait, no, I think he was still like 25. I don't know. And like he said, his coaching, the only like champion that he has right now is Brandon Moreno. And that was the first champion that they've had.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know. And DL saying his Discord and YouTube are gone. Too late for me. Too late. No more inside info for me. What am I going to do? Hey, but you know what? Without James Krause, I still went 12-14 last night, Toasty. I'm hanging my my hat on that. Dude, I'm super proud of that. And
we're not going to talk about mine.
We're not going to. For anybody that has just joined us or first joined us, I'm sorry. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Podcast, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are found. Anchor FM on there is as well. I think you can also find us on social media. Which is like TikTok. I think we still have a Facebook that's open, right?
You have a Facebook group, but you don't have a profile.
Oh, we don't. Okay, so we don't have a Facebook profile. See, Toasty, thank you for letting me know that. So maybe
I was trying to look for you guys. I can't remember what it was because I was trying to tag you in mine, and I was like, oh, they only have a group.
It goes to show how much we know. All right, well, I guess we have to start a profile. But yeah, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We haven't been kicked off TikTok yet. Reddit, I don't think Will has gone as banned off that yet. You can find us live on Twitch also. But yeah, that's where we're at so far. We also have storyofthefight.com, which I believe gives you a link to all the things that we just mentioned. Special shout out to Mr. Andrew Toasty, also known as Andrew Toasty, the double champ. Thank you so much for filling in for Will, man.
Real quick, like I also have a fight that just got booked. February 25th will be in Milpitas at West Coast Elites. They'll start selling I'll start selling tickets at the end of December.
Right on, man. So another fight that's booked in February. You're active, man. You're an active fighter, bro.
If I was in the PFL, bro, I'd be in the rankings.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, thank you again, Toasty. I really appreciate you filling in. A special shout out there to HLB Comer. Special shout out to DL. Thank you all for joining us. And of course, in case you didn't know, Toasty, this podcast is produced by Richard Bustos. Yeah, shocking.
That's awesome.
There's a sound of. Much love, Toasty.